All right, Brian, we got to talk about the lights.
Ah, yes. Let there be lights.
Now, we are teaching people how to do indoor grows. And of course, there's going to be those people in the chat room, in our audience, who are saying, duh, just go outside, which is true.
Actually, there's a few people in our audience who are saying, why don't you hook it up to your phone, do automation, and have it solar powered. So it's all...
We will actually do that. But that's like in 2 months.
We're getting there, guys.
Yeah, we're getting there. But I mean, the sun is a free source of energy for us. And there's a lot of people who say, well, why would you do an indoor grow? That means you have to set up lights, or it means you have to be in a windowsill. It's kind of silly to them. But this is a specific type of growing. Again, we're reaching out to geeks, people who typically have lab spaces.
Right.
You might be able to dedicate some of it to an indoor growing. And indoor growing means you don't have to care about seasons. You don't have to care about light or dark. Whereas I might be able to get 1, maybe 2 harvests of a crop outdoors. If I'm growing it inside, that's maybe 4, 5 different harvests.
Yeah, I think, I mean, here in California, we don't have a lot of trouble growing things outside, but I mean, during the winter, there can be frost that will kill your plants. I remember my mom always had to like throw towels and stuff over some of her plants to keep them from dying during the night if there was a cold front coming in. But also pests, like a lot of bugs and things like that. Gross.
Yeah, and that's actually, for me, that's the big thing, because we do have a solar power system. So the lights that I pump into my lights, the energy I pump into my lights is basically free. But the big thing is pests. Anytime you put something outdoors, it's going to attract pests. And the only way to stop that from happening is using pesticides. And I don't want to use any pesticides on any of my crops.
Right.
Put them inside of a tent. I can actually control what's coming into the tent. That's it. You're done. No more pest infestations.
Right. And I live in an apartment, so I don't have access to like a yard that I can manipulate to my will.
Precisely. But you might have a couple of square feet that you can dedicate to a grow tent.
Totally.
Yeah. But if you're going to do a grow tent, or if you're going to do an indoor grow with supplemental lighting, like for example, I've seen people set up on a windowsill, but then they'll have a fixture above it so that when it starts to get dark, extra lighting is provided to help with the grow.
That's smart. Okay.
It's kind of smart. There are a couple of different technologies that you can choose from, but here's the problem about just eyeballing it. Our brains are really good at abstracting out the brightness of something.
Oh, okay. So like filtering it down kind of thing?
Yeah. For example, right now, these studio lights seem really, really bright.
Oh, insanely bright.
Insanely bright. But if you were to take these outside, you wouldn't be able to see them.
That makes sense.
The sun is way, way brighter. But to our eyes, they actually seem like the same level of brightness because our eyes are abstracting the environment around us.
True. And it's really dark behind the lights. So.
Right. This is why we have to actually look at our instruments. We have to look at the specifications of a lighting system. We can't just turn them both on and say, oh, that one seems brighter, I'm going to buy that one.
Yeah, that seems, you can't do that?
No, not at all. Now, the basic measurement that we're going to be using when we look at lighting systems is lumens. It's actually not perfect. We'll explain this a little bit later when we get to PAR, which is photosynthetically active radiation.
Oh.
What you really want to do is look at micromoles, because those are the units of light that the plants can actually absorb. But we're going to be talking about lumens for a bit,
okay.
And then we'll show you why that's actually not so useful of a measurement. As a general rule of thumb, whenever we're dealing with a grow, more light equals more growth.
Okay, more fertilizer means more growth too.
Okay,
okay.
No. But, and actually there is a caveat to this, which is some plants, especially when they're young, cannot take too much light. The snap peas, if I were to put those under the same lights that I have some of my other plants under, it would kill them. It's just too much. It would scorch the leaves and you'd get these really funky growths. What you want to do is you want to find the appropriate light for every plant. And they'll tell you, partial shade, full sunlight, that gives you a clue as to how much light these plants can safely take before you start seeing weirdness.
Okay, and do plants have like a sleep cycle too, where certain hours they're used to having light and then they like don't want light and then come back on?
We will cover this when we get to the photosynthesis, because that is a long, drawn-out, geeky explanation. I'm sorry, but we got to do it.
Okay.
I just didn't want to do it this week because we're already too loaded.
I don't blame you.
People, unfortunately, that's a myth.
Oh, really?
And people still perpetrate it to this day. They say, they heard in biology, high school biology, well, there's a light cycle and a dark cycle. And in their minds, they think, oh, so plants sleep. No. So what it means is that there's a light-dependent cycle and there is a light-independent cycle.
Okay.
But the light-independent cycle is always happening.
Okay.
So during the day, the light-dependent processes are happening. So it's using chlorophyll to take solar radiation and turn it into sugars and carbohydrates that it can use
Right.
in the dark cycle. But the dark cycle doesn't just happen when it's dark.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a continuous process. It's
Correct.
not like a light switch.
Exactly. It's not like, okay, well, we're done with the light cycle, you guys take over.
Yeah, time to switch over to the other team. We'll see you in about 8 hours.
Yeah, so the light-dependent cycle does only happen when there's light.
Okay.
But the dark, the light-independent cycle can happen anytime.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Now, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the different technologies that we're going to play with. This first one, this is sort of the gold standard of indoor grows. It's for the amount of light that you get, it's going to be the cheapest. And if you go to that link, Kara, this is an HID lamp. It's a high-intensity discharge lamp. Now, there's two that are popular. There's HPS, which is high-pressure sodium, and MH, which is metal halide. Now, HPS and metal halide, as we'll see as we compare them a little bit, they're slightly different technologies, but most of these ballasts, which you will need to drive these lamps, will run both. So they're interchangeable. Some people swear that if you start off with metal halide in the seedling stage and then switch over to the high-pressure sodium in the later stage, the flowering stages, you get more blue light when it's young and more red light when it's old.
Right.
We'll talk about whether or not that actually works. I found that it works equally well.
Right.
It's just the amount of light that comes down into the plant.
Because they don't need green light at all either, right?
Right, right.
That's why they're green.
But if you go back to that link really quick, Carol, one of the things you should know about this is this unit. So this is only a 400-watt unit. I've got a 1,000-watt unit inside one of my tents. Oh, I did. Let me explain that.
I think it probably found the same fate as most of your electronics.
There are a couple of things that I don't like about these. The first is they are hot. They are crazy, crazy hot. These bulbs will be thousands of degrees.
Dang.
So
kind of sounds like a fire hazard.
It's a fire hazard, and so you have to ventilate it properly. Now, if you live in an area of the country where it's typically hot a lot, or if you have no really good way to ventilate it outdoors, then you're probably going to want to stay away from an HID. An HID is just going to generate too much heat, and heat will kill your plants.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, but again, look at that, $122 for 36,000 lumens. That actually is a deal. It's pretty good.
I will have to take your word for it.
And actually, Kara, if you could click on the 1,000-watt version of that. So, the price only goes up a little bit.
1,000
But it's 140,000 lumens.
Think how fast those plants will grow.
Or they'll fry.
Or they'll burn.
Yeah, they'll die. They'll die. All right, so that's a possibility. If you have a lot of ventilation, if you plan to make a big grow tent, you're going to need a big grow tent for a 1,000 watt.
Okay.
Then you might want to go with HID. There is an intermediary, and that's this. This is not a standard fluorescent fixture. This is actually a T5. This is important. If you go to the link for this, Kara, this is a T5 grow light. This is two 4-foot lamps.
Okay.
All right, so, sorry, 4 2-foot lamps, there, that way. This is about 10,000 lumen, and actually look at this. Here, go to my single, Kara. Let me turn these things on.
Don't look
They're
directly.
bright, they are very bright, but I mean, they're not so bright that they're blotting things out.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's 10,000 lumens, and it's actually reasonable. If you go back to that link, this unit is only $55. The unit above it, which is 4 4-foot lamps, which gives you 20,000 lumens, that's only like $80.
Okay.
So, inexpensive, and the nice thing about these is they run cool.
Yeah, I could see hanging those in a garage or something like that.
Yeah.